After an exciting weekend series at home against the Pioneers of Denver, the Huskies will travel down I-94 to the Excel Center to compete in the North Star Cup and defend their title. Welcome to the St. Cloud State Husky Hockey Weekend Preview. I'm your host, Megan Hedstrom, and alongside me is my good friend, Mick Hatton from the St. Cloud Times. Now, the Huskies put on a show for their home crowd this past weekend, splitting with Denver. They came away with a win on Friday and a loss on Saturday. But what was that atmosphere like on Friday after the Huskies pulled off a win?
Well, it's always big when you get a overtime win at home, in front of the crowd. I mean, it was pretty good crowds on both nights, and St. Cloud State, it was a big win for them. I mean, they need to play a little bit better at home to begin with. And on top of that, it's against one of the top teams in the conference, one of the top teams in the country. So there was a little bit of zip in the building after that game.
The star of the show on Saturday night was obviously Ryan Poehling coming away with the game-winning overtime goal. Let's talk a little bit about his performance on Friday night.
Well, he's had a really good freshman season. I think you're seeing him kind of find himself a little bit more and more as the season goes on. One of the things that he's really good with the puck. He's got very good vision with the puck when he's got it on his stick. They've kind of moved him around a little bit here in the last couple of weekends in terms of who he's playing with. Hasn't been with his brothers on the same line. And it's kind of paid off. I mean, Mikey Eismont on the game-winning goal kind of threw it toward the net, and Ryan kind of instinctively went toward the net, kind of knew what Mikey was probably going to do in that situation, and ended up getting the game-winning goal. One of the things that he struggled with a little bit over the weekend was his face-offs, but for a young guy, I mean, that happens a lot of times. He'll grow into that.
The Huskies came in with a split against a number one ranked team. What kind of confidence does that give them coming into this weekend? Well,
I think anytime you pick up wins against top-ranked opponents. I mean, the weekend before was they split with a very good UMD team that again, depending on the poll, was either one of the top 2-3 ranked teams in the country. So anytime you're picking up wins against teams that are ranked that highly, it's going to give you some confidence.
This weekend the Huskies are heading down to the Excel Center for the North Star Cup, and they're going to take on the Beavers on Friday night. And last year in the North Star Cup, they beat them. What do the Beavers have to offer this year?
They're a team that got off to a terrific start, 11-2-1 to start the season, and are one of the top 2 or 3 ranked teams in the country at that point. They've struggled a little bit since then, 5-7-2. But they're still leading the WCHA, a very good defensive team. They're the toughest team in the nation right now to score against. They also have the best penalty kill in the country at 90%. So there's a lot of things for St. Cloud State to try and maneuver to get around. Bemidji State typically is a very good defensive team. They like to kind of clog up the middle, and so St. Cloud State's going to have to kind of counter that and try and get themselves to the neutral zone. That's another area where Bemidji State is typically pretty strong. They want to counterpunch all the time, and St. Cloud State's going to have to find their way to find some offense against this team.
And depending on who wins on Friday night's game, the Huskies will either take on the Gophers or the Bulldogs on Saturday. How do they prepare against either one of these teams?
Well, the good news there is that St. Cloud State has played both of those teams, so they kind of know a little bit of what they have to offer. In particular with UMD, they've played them 4 times, and they've had leads against them in 3 of them. There's been a couple of 1-goal games. I mean, St. Cloud State has played pretty well against UMD, even though they're only 1-3 against them at this point in the season. With the Gophers, they saw them early on in the season, but St. Cloud State had that big third period comeback against the Gophers. It'd probably be similar type of games. I think UMD plays a little bit more physical style than the Gophers does, and maybe UMD might be a little bit better defensively, but they're similar type teams in that you have to be prepared because they're very good hockey teams.
Puck drop is set for 4 p.m. on Friday, and puck drop for Saturday's game is still to be determined. Fans can listen to both of these games on 96.7 The Rev. That's all for this week's Husky Hockey Weekend Preview. Thanks for joining me, Nick.
Thank you.